Hey folks, today we're going to tackle the common swing faults around thrusting towards the golf ball. Some players call it early extension, but something I hear a lot is when players tell me that they're stuck. They flip that impact because they feel stuck. And the visual that they give me is that as they come in the downswing, they feel like their pelvis has moved towards the golf ball and their trail arm has gotten stuck. So to clear the air a little bit, we're going to talk about the setup fault that so many people make, and then one of the misunderstandings that we have. And then I've got two drills for you that's actually going to help us create some space in our golf swing to help be less stuck and hit better golf shots. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to do is describe, or at least talk about, when players tell me that they're stuck. There's two main things that they look at. They're either talking about they feel like they have no space as they come through the golf ball, and normally the feedback that I get is that's from one of two body parts. The first thing that they feel is they feel that their pelvis or their hips have gotten closer to the golf ball than they were at setup. But another one, which I think is a common one when players tell me that they feel stuck, is they feel that as they come down in the downswing that their trail arm doesn't have anywhere to go. And that's because our pelvis has moved towards the golf ball. If we feel like we're stuck, or if we've early extended, or if we feel like we've thrusted towards the golf ball, the main thing that we've lost is space. And what I mean by that is when we get set up right now, I have a certain amount of space here between my body and the golf club. And as I make that downswing, we can either lose that space, we can increase that space, or we can maintain the space that we have through rotation. One of the most common faults that we see is that players lose that space. So the thing that we're going to stop doing is when we get stuck, we're going to quit trying to think that we're going to fix it by backing away further from the golf ball. What happens is a lot of players feel like, okay, if I keep moving in this direction, I'm just going to set up more on my heels or maybe further away from the golf ball, because then that will give me more space to work with. Unfortunately, that's not the way that this game works. And what happens is the further we pull ourselves away from the golf ball for someone who thrusts, the more we're going to do it, because then we find ourselves off balance in a toes and heels game. So instead of just thinking about, okay, I'm going to set up further, instead of actually trying to solve the problem, let's talk about how we can actually train to solve the problem. So to make sure we clear the air where we are right now, when a player tells me that they're stuck, it's either their pelvis has moved towards the golf ball or their trail arm feels like it's stuck beside their body and can't get in front of them. So let's talk about how we can create space. What happens for a lot of players is they try to create that space in the backswing. They'll set up further away from the golf ball. They might think of making a bigger turn. But within reason, those manipulations doesn't change what's going to happen in the downswing. When we look at really good players and their ability to create or maintain space, once they've gotten to the top of their backswing, as they start to make their downswing, they're not thrusting towards the golf ball. They're actually creating a little bit of space, and we hear that term of squatting down, or we see really good players when they get to the top, right, that first move where their trunk is sitting down or their hips stay back and rotate, but nothing is moving towards the golf ball. There's two drills that we can go through which are exaggerations, but I think before I try to diagnose every single person's specific fault, I'm going to give you a couple of feels that can help you get an idea of how your body would move if we had adequate space. So the first one is called skip the stick. And what I'm going to do here, because the orientation I have, I'm going to give you the explanation here, and then I'm going to get down range on the drive range. I'm going to hit a few shots for you as well. But the first thing that we have here is skip the stick, and this will be in a practice swing setup. So what I'm going to do here is right now I'm going to set up in my normal stance with my club on that side of the stick. So furthest away, right? So right now my club is on that side of the stick, and I'm going to take my normal setup. And now the cue is going to be, I'm going to make some slow swings to start to make my backswing. But then as I make my downswing, to actually come down on the inside of the stick. So we're going to skip the stick. We're going to start on the outside, and then we're going to come down on the inside. We're going to make that move a few times, nice and slow. And the thing that we're going to feel as we do it is that in order for me to actually get the club to come down on this side, I'm not going to be able to really move my pelvis towards the golf ball, because then that's going to send me back on the other side of the stick. So the cue for a lot of golfers, and I think a great cue for you, is once you get to the top of the backswing, we have to feel like our pelvis and our hips stay back, or at least go further back, a little deeper, and rotate. One way that we can do it, I'll exaggerate, is I'll set up, I'll make my backswing, I'll feel like I'm going to push my pelvis back, and then now I'm going to rotate, and that's going to get me on the inside of the stick because I've pushed my pelvis back. So we can do that again in slow. We're going to make a backswing. Now push the pelvis back, and then come through and make our downswing and come down the inside of the stick. We'll pick up the pace a little bit here for a few. So starting on the outside, and then I feel the pelvis really pushing back as I come down on the inside of the stick. The reason why we can't just say, okay, I'm just going to preset my butt back, is because now we have no more space to create. And as we make our downswing, the way that our balance works is then we're going to want to work towards our toes. So I want you to give me your normal setup. We're not going to do anything crazy. We're not going to step too far away. For some of you, I bet you'd succeed a little bit quicker if you actually set up closer to the golf ball. So you're going to step closer to the golf ball, make sure the weight's in the balls of your feet. And now that's going to give you the chance to actually create some space to be able to come down on the inside. If we set up too far away, right, I try to push my butt back, but I'm already back on my heels, that's how I'm going to lose my balance. So skip the stick is feedback drill number one. Another one that we can do is with golf balls, and this is actually one, I'll show you the short game version, which I do a lot for chipping, for those of you who struggle with some shanks. But then we'll also go through the full swing version as well when I flip over downrange. And what I'll have a player do is I will have them set up two golf balls, and they will set up to the golf ball furthest away from them. So like skip the stick, except I guess this is the golf ball version. And we're going to make our backswing, but then as we come down, we're actually going to try to hit the golf ball that's closest to us in hopes that we've created a little bit of space, or at least start to get our body to understand the instruction. I started further away, I need to come down on the inside, instead of the compensation of setting up too far away. So what that would look like in the short game example, and then I'll go because I don't want to hit one too far here, is so I would set up to the golf ball away from me in my normal stance, and then as I come down, I'll feel my pelvis push back, and I'll hit the golf ball on the inside, something like that, right off the range divider. So there's the two drills that we can do, which will help create this feel. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip the angle, we're going to go down range, we're going to hit these shots, I'm going to come right back here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can take this on to our practice sessions and onto the golf course. All right, so now we're going to do a more full swing, hit a few shots. So for skip the stick, this is great from a practice swing perspective. So I'm set up on that side of the stick, and then when I come through, I'm going to hit on the inside of the stick. So I'm going to set up here my normal stance just on the outside of the stick, and then make that swing and come through on the inside of the stick. And again, the cue for me is top of backswing. I know it's my pelvis better be moving backwards if I want to have the space to come down the downswing. So now we can do this while hitting a golf ball as well. So again, I'm going to set up on the outside of the stick, normal setup, and come down and hit the golf ball on the inside of the stick. Okay, not a bad strike there. And then now the two ball example, if we get rid of this one, is what we can do is we can set up to the outside golf ball, and then as we make our golf swing, we can come down and hit the inside golf ball. If we don't have an alignment rod, it's a great way to do it. So let's go ahead and set up here. So I'm going to step to the outside golf ball, my normal setup, and then I'm going to feel that pelvis really moving back at the start of the downswing to make some space so I can hit the inside golf ball. Okay, good strike there. So there's 2 examples. Now let's go back to the teaching side and let's wrap up our video. All right, so I hope that those 2 visuals were helpful. Now to summarize, if you're tired of being stuck, if you feel like you're thrusting towards the golf ball, I hope that these 2 drills will help kind of get us in a spot where we can start to train our body how to move in a different direction. And so much of that has to do with the way that we move our pelvis. So stop making the mistake of setting up too far away from the golf ball that will prevent the thrust, where instead let's feed the fault to force us to be able to make a change. So I'd rather you set up in the balls of our feet, honestly, even a little bit closer than you normally do. So that from the top of the backswing, now we have some space for our pelvis to work back and deep, and then we can think about rotating as we come through. This can be a complex issue for a lot of you, but I hope that these 2 drills will at least give you a chance to maybe start to feel something a little bit different. And maybe this can start to rewire the way that your pelvis wants to move in the golf swing, in hopes that we stop thrusting towards that golf ball, getting that trail arm stuck, which leads to the hang back, the early extension, the chunks, all those things we don't like. So again, I hope that these tips have been helpful. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time.